Okay, let's just get this out of the way. Forget the Disney songs, forget the cute cricket. The original story of Pinocchio is, well, it's brutal. It's a really dark and incredibly profound story. It's basically an unforgiving allegory about the true, painful cost of becoming a human being. So, yeah, let's dive right into this moral metamorphosis. So, we're going to tackle this in 6 acts. We'll follow Pinocchio's really agonizing transformation, from a naive, frankly selfish puppet all the way to a real boy. We'll kick things off with his first major temptation and stick with him until his final triumph. All right, Act 1, and you got to understand this from the get-go. Pinocchio is not our hero here. Not yet. He's deeply flawed. His main drive isn't about being good. It's this desperate need for instant gratification. And that right there, that's the crack in his armor that lets all the disaster in. This quote, this is the whole story in a nutshell. It lays out the central conflict perfectly. You've got Geppetto on one side, who represents hard work, sacrifice, love. And on the other side, the incredibly tempting promise of getting rich without doing a single thing. The choice Pinocchio makes right here is what kicks off his entire tragic journey. And right on cue, in walk the story's most famous villains. Look, the fox and the cat, they're not just some bumbling crooks. They are true predators. They basically personify all the world's temptations, and they are perfectly engineered to exploit the exact internal weaknesses Pinocchio already has. They take one look at his greed and they pounce. So how do they trap him? It's not just a simple trick. The scheme they cook up is so methodical, so calculated. It preys on every single one of Pinocchio's character flaws. Let's actually break down their playbook of manipulation. This 4-step plan is just a masterclass in how to manipulate someone. First, pinpoint the weakness, his greed. Second, invent a fantasy that's just too good to resist. The field of miracles, where your coins will magically grow into money trees. Third, and this part is absolutely crucial, they cut him off from anyone who might talk some sense into him, like the cricket. And once he's all alone, blinded by the thought of easy money, that's when they execute the betrayal. And this is the part that's just so frustrating. Pinocchio isn't just a passive victim here. The ghost of the cricket literally warns him, tells him how absurd it is to think coins can be planted. But he just ignores it. Why? Because he chooses the lie. It's so much more appealing than the boring truth of hard work. He's an active player in his own downfall, all because he's stubborn and refuses to learn. Up until this moment, Pinocchio's mistakes have gotten him into trouble, sure, but not a full-blown catastrophe. Well, this act changes everything. The story takes a sharp, brutal turn, and we're about to see the real physical price he has to pay for his foolishness. So let's just keep this question in our minds as we head into the darkest part of the story. You have to remember the world of Pinocchio is not some happy fairy tale kingdom. It's a harsh place. So what happens when that kind of unchecked gullibility runs headfirst into a pair of ruthless predators? This is it. The con game just escalates into a violent, terrifying attack. The fox and cat, now disguised as bandits, demand his gold. When he cleverly hides the coins in his mouth, they hang him from a tree. And they just wait for him to die. This is not a cartoon moment. It's a grim, truly harrowing scene of attempted murder. That giant oak isn't just some random tree. It's a symbol of Pinocchio's total stagnation. He's literally wooden. He can't move, he can't change. He's just stuck, suspended between being a living thing and a dead object. This is the absolute rock bottom of his journey, the physical proof of his moral paralysis. Somehow, against all odds, Pinocchio is rescued from the brink of death. But just because he survived doesn't mean the lesson's been learned. His ordeal is far from over. In fact, the story is about to shift from a battle for physical survival to a really profound moral test. And this is where the Azure Fairy comes into the picture. She's this maternal, guiding force. Unlike the fox and cat who just wanted to exploit his flaws, the fairy gives him a chance to actually confront them. She basically represents grace, the possibility of a whole new path for him. So when the fairy asks Pinocchio what happened to his money, what does he do? He lies. And right here we get the single most famous part of the whole story. The growing nose is absolute genius. Because for the first time, his internal flaw, his dishonesty, becomes a physical, external reality that he absolutely cannot deny.
He can't hide from it, he can't lie his way out of it. His lie has literally taken shape on his face.
So the big takeaway here is that once the fairy and the growing nose are in play, the stakes have completely changed. It's not just about outsmarting bandits anymore. Now, Pinocchio has to conquer himself. He has to defeat his own nature if he ever hopes to become real. Now, you would think that after being literally hung from a tree and seeing his lies grow on his own face, he would have learned his lesson, right? Well, no. Pinocchio's journey needs one last, catastrophic dive into irresponsibility before he can finally start to climb back up. He gets lured away by his friend, Candlewick, to the land of toys, and it's sold to him as the ultimate paradise for lazy kids. I mean, it is everything Pinocchio has ever wanted, all in one place. No school, no chores, no rules, just pure, non-stop fun. It is the ultimate test of his character. But it's a trap, of course it is, and the consequence is just horrifyingly symbolic. A life of pure indulgence, of rejecting work and learning, literally turns you into a beast of burden, a donkey. It's the final stage of dehumanization, a total loss of who you are, for anyone who chooses a life without any purpose. After escaping his fate as a donkey, Pinocchio ends up swallowed by a giant dogfish. But inside this dark, awful place, he finds a little flicker of light, Geppetto, who's been trapped in there for years. And right here, at his lowest physical point, he has his highest moral moment. He chooses to carry his weak old father to safety, putting Geppetto's life before his own for the very first time. This incredible act of heroism, it's not about survival for him, it's about love. By saving his father, he is metaphorically cutting the puppet strings of his own selfishness, his own ego. He's finally acting for someone else, not just for himself. This is the moment he truly starts to become. And so here we are, at the end of this long, painful journey. After showing what true sacrifice looks like, and after committing to a life of hard work to take care of Geppetto, Pinocchio finally earns his ultimate reward. This image is just so powerful. When Pinocchio becomes a real boy, his old wooden body doesn't just vanish. It's left behind, empty, slumped in a chair like a snake that's shed its skin. It's this perfect visual that this wasn't just some magic trick. It was a total metamorphosis. He has left his old, rebellious self behind for good. So in the end, the message of this whole story is this. Becoming real isn't something you're just born with. It is not a gift. In Pinocchio's world, it's a moral status that you have to earn through suffering, through discipline, through facing your own flaws, and ultimately through selfless love. And that leaves us with one last question to chew on. If being human isn't just a biological fact, but a moral achievement, well, it kind of forces us to ask, what are the trials we're facing? What are the sacrifices we need to make? And in our own lives, what does it actually mean to earn our own humanity?